States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody, to our workshop, our rescheduled workshop. Rescheduled workshop. But we're here. So first item on the agenda tonight is for public comment. So if there's anybody scanning the crowd, nothing on Zoom? Okay. We will move on. We got the police department update. Chief Morrison.
Yeah, on the nuisance end of things, we did 4 court-ordered cleanups today. One at 457 10th Avenue Northeast, one at 312 First Street Southwest, and then 2 of them at 778th Street Southwest, Lot 27 and Lot 32. We did 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, spent, I think, 6 guys working all day on that, so that took up most of the day. And then we towed 3 vehicles from the impound storage we've been using out of the old wastewater, and 2 vehicles from the North City lot. And then part of the cleanups today, we towed a camper and 2 vehicles, so we've had like 8 in the last few days. So that's where we're at with the nuisance end of things. And then I think you got an email today, the Police Citizens Academy. We're kind of revisiting that. We had 3 people apply for that, so me and the captain are going to kind of look at it, see if we need to move it later. It's a lot of time and effort for 3 people, so we just got to kind of look and see where we can go from here. But to be continued.
What's your minimum number you need?
We were thinking 8, and we're at 3. So
We need to recruit. Anybody that wants to know about that stuff, let's move them in.
yeah,
It's very interesting. I found it
yeah.
very interesting.
It was
last time,
it was
so.
fun. We've done it twice now, and it was a good experience both times. So we just got to get the numbers up there, or it's not. It's a lot of time for us in the police department to put it on if we're only gonna have 3 people, but so.
Yep. Any questions for Chief Morrison? I'm assuming it's the end of your. Not hearing anything.
Okay.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Tarr, the Public Works.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, it's been getting difficult to get well, I guess not difficult. The forecast's been pretty spot on, but it's kind of tough when we only get a ½ inch or 3/4 of an inch here or there of snow, so that's kind of been a pain. But the guys have been out doing the sidewalks and some parking lots a little bit. I'm hoping for a little bit of warmer weather later this week. Hopefully we can get out and do some scraping maybe on some of the side streets that are still holding some snow. A lot of sand and salt. We're going through quite a bit of that this year, but we're still in good supply. Working on burning some of the extra wood and stuff out at the compost site. They working on some tree removals as well. And then I know the cemetery tree removal project's in full swing. So if you've been out the cemetery, you're gonna see a lot of activity. They've even been working in the sub-cold days here a little bit. So nice to see that going. The tree-lined dead ash tree that we had contracted out, those guys are done. That's been completed, and I think the stump grinder guys have been out pretty much when they can with the good weather that they get. So these frigid temps have been hard on a few things. Had a few freeze ups, people that have had frozen meters and different things of that nature. Just want to remind those folks, if we're going to get a few days and it's 0 or below, or even the wind chills are that cold, make sure if you've had frozen meters before, maybe get some insulation wrapped around it or do something to help protect that. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a broken meter, and then you're going to get a bill from us to replace it. And then, yeah, so it just creates some issues. So just keep an eye on that. The frost still isn't all that deep, even though we've had kind of a long run here. it's, we've seen a lot worse in years past, so I'm not really afraid of frozen water mains or anything right now, but service lines that are unprotected when they come in the house and different things, make sure there's no drafts, make sure you're trying to do your diligence. That'll just help you for down the road. And like the chief, he did really well. We've been pretty hot and heavy on that. I had court last week, but both my cases last week got continued out for a while, so we'll see where those lead to in the near future. And the asbestos RFP testing companies have been, I think we've had 2 now come to town so far to start working on that for us for the upcoming demos on the 2 properties from last month. So that'll be a little ways out yet. Of course, we had a structural fire yesterday on, what was that, 6th Street Southwest, unfortunately. I did have a conversation with the property owner's insurance company this morning. They actually called here. That was refreshing. So working with them to find out. And then Miguel Sosa from Brothers Auto stopped in today as well to give an update on what he's got going on down there. And it looks like demolition for sure. So that'll be taking place hopefully here in the near future. So other than that, any questions?
Mr. Lamos?
All the brush at the old compost site, you gonna haul that to the new site or burn it where it's at?
No, I think we're going to try to haul that at some point when we get some time. We'll try to haul that, and then I think we'll also take the compost. I think we still have some compost left over there too as well. I'd like to bring that out to the new facility, have that available for people this spring.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Nope. Thank you, Mr. Tar. All right. Okay, now we're down to our favorite topic, budget. I think we're going to have Mr. Crawford, you want to kick us off and kind of give us an update on your street plan here, and then we'll go into that further.
Okay,
Alright.
thank you very much. I'm happy to be back in front of you. Last time I was here, I displayed a map that was similar to this, that had several street segments on it up for consideration for this year's street rehabilitation program. Following that conversation that night, I think some council members and staff went back and looked at some additional candidates to be added. So there are several other street segments listed on there for consideration. My map isn't quite big enough to show. There's one spot to the north. It's a repair at the Progress Park parking lot. So that is also on the list of some failing asphalt there to be included in the standard street rehabilitation, the asphalt rehabilitation program. I've got some planning numbers included with each of those street segments, and I think the purpose of tonight is to maybe just have a conversation about the priority that the council feels for each of the different segments shown, and get an idea of kind of what our street program might look like this year. Once we kind of get a priority list or what folks feel the strongest about, then we can kind of look at building the program in terms of a base bid package and some bid alternates out of that priority list. I will note there are a couple red spots there. One right there. Yeah, thanks, Ron. And one right over here. This one is an intake at the southeast corner of Highway 3 and 3rd Street. That's the Hardee's parking lot. That intake is collapsed. The back wall is collapsed. It's causing some pavement issues out onto Highway 3. So that's kind of something that needs to get corrected. I think Doug's had some conversations with some DOT folks about the importance of that. Also, then the one over at the northwest corner of Highway 3 and Highway 65 is a project that Ron and Doug and I talked about, I think, the end of last fall. There was that area was redeveloped as part of the funeral home parking lot, and there's some curb and gutter there that's in really bad shape. There's some minor drainage challenges there in that return in that northwest corner. So we've got that identified as an option for consideration. Again, it's that project is probably, I've got it included here to take a look at and to maybe be part of the overlay program. However, that might be a standalone project that we need to think about at some time, simply because that's Highway 3 and Highway 65. There's going to be some heavy DOT involvement with that project. The planning and the design and the coordination is kind of at another level than what we typically do for the city street rehabilitation project. So I did want to show that to you folks so that you know that that's kind of out there as well. Ron, I don't know if you have anything to add to that?
No, I just think it probably would be a good idea to, maybe we just budget separately, not under the HMA project for that particular portion.
Yep. I very much agree with that. Again, I wanted to show it so that folks knew that it was out there.
Yes.
It's kind of hard to see the numbers on the
Yeah,
screen from
see
here.
if I
but-
can-
So, everything that you've got green or pink, I'll call it, is kind of in the scope of.
Correct. Everything that's green or pink, and again, the pink, we've kind of differentiated between some street segments that we were talking about just doing curb and gutter replacement on, as we've done in the past, and then coming back in the subsequent year to actually do the street resurfacing in between there. We've had some very good success with that, staging projects that way. And so those are two blocks that we think lend themselves really well to that type of approach. So the pink is up for consideration, certainly, but those would just be curb and gutter removal and replacements as part of this program. The green would be your traditional, what we've done in the past with the mill and overlay.
Art, can you kind of go through the green ones and the price, because it's hard to see.
Okay. So I'm gonna start down the lower left-hand corner. That's 7th Street Southwest, and the number I have there is $136,000 for those 3 blocks. And then second, going up to the north, 2nd Avenue Southwest is $114,000. Then straight east of that, Federal Street South is $146,500. The Hardee's intake repair is there at about $15,000. The Progress Park parking lot repair, which is just off the screen to the north, again, I apologize for that, is about $20,000. And that's, again, just milling some deteriorated asphalt out and stabilizing the subgrade and then replacing the asphalt. 3rd Avenue Northwest, up in the far top part of the map, that is $292,000. 3rd Street Southeast, which is a curb and gutter replacement part, that's $49,000. And then we get into a couple of the ones that were added based on our conversation last time. The alley behind Napa is estimated at $20,000. The Get and Go alley, the alley behind Get and Go is also estimated at about $20,000. 1st Avenue Southeast curb and gutter is estimated at 50,000. And then down, kind of in the bottom right area is First Street Southeast, estimated at 100,000.
What are you gonna do with First Street Southeast?
First Street Southeast is gonna, I think that's part of the, there's some asphalt that needs to be removed there, and then paving the rest of it down to the dead end part.
Well,
I can zoom in there.
so this is a list, this isn't necessarily what we're all gonna do. This is a list of potential, and then we're looking for council to prioritize them. And the ones, there may be a few on the bottom that won't even get done.
What about the airport intersection?
The apron. Yeah, I don't know if we talked to Mark about that, but it's,
together, probably about 5 to 7 tops.
yeah.
There's not
Okay.
much there. I'd like to put a piling there, so try to cut the corners of that.
Napa is 20 and Get Go's 20. Well, Get Go's only a half a block. Why are they so comparable?
Yeah, we had talked to an asphalt contractor that looked at both of those, and that's the number that he gave us for each of them, so that,
It's just an estimate.
it's
Dave.
just,
That's not
just
a
our
solid
estimate,
number.
yeah.
What were you gonna do on Third Street Southeast?
Third Street Southeast. Third Street South, Third Street Northeast,
Okay,
it's just the curb and gutter.
okay.
Yeah, so Barry, for instance, this might not be a priority for the council, and it may not get done next year or in 5 years. So we're looking to get some priorities here, so anybody
I
wants to
think we
offer.
gotta concentrate on high-traffic areas and stuff,
Yeah,
where the traffic is. All that up there on, is it Third Avenue Northeast?
Third Avenue North.
Third Avenue.
Yep.
All that was, it was bad, but when they had the detour for the bridge, it made it even worse.
Okay.
And that needs to be, definitely be done. So the green is all mill and overlay?
Correct. There'll be some curb and gutter replacement where needed in there, and it's important to note that Third Avenue Northeast is an area where there's definitely a lot of curb and gutter that needs to be redone in that section.
Is that, how much of it is ADA accessible sidewalks?
The cost estimate, the 292,000 includes doing some ADA repair. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, Barry, but that was taken into account when Doug and I did our walkthrough and noted that there has to be some improvements there.
And the cost estimate includes the curb and gutter also.
Correct. There's some areas that the curb and gutter is completely gone, and there's other areas that you can only see about that much of the top of the curb. So there needs to be some repair done there.
Can I ask
Kind of a
about,
timetable do you have for having it, getting it done?
Well, we're following kind of our standard timeline process, so we'd like to get started, as soon as possible in March with our design and get it bid in probably late April, to give contractors enough time to get it done yet this year. I think we would set our completion date like we've done in the past in mid-October. Traditionally, they've had no trouble meeting that date. In fact, they're usually done well ahead of that. So we're kind of on the same schedule, maybe a touch behind, but I think for something like this, we'll be fine. Sorry, go ahead, Bill.
yeah, I had a question. Can you give a brief explanation as to the selection process for these particular streets? I mean, I know that we received a questionnaire about what streets we would recommend, but I don't know anything about streets or subsurfaces or anything like that, so.
Sure. So, over the past about 12 years that I've been working here in Hampton, we've kind of taken an approach of trying to do the worst condition streets first and put those into some sort of program so that they're being addressed before they get in worse condition.
And when you say worst condition, like,
We're talking surface conditions, so we have faulted joints, we have cracked or deteriorating asphalt. The majority of the projects here have been asphalt projects. There's been a couple of concrete projects, but, so we're looking at improving the riding surface, the driving surface, eliminating the faulted joints, the cracked, the decracked or alligator cracking that occurs in the asphalt, improving drainage where we can, improving ADA accessibility where we can at intersections. So we've put our heads together several different times. In the beginning, we had a 5-year plan that we were kind of picking off streets. Some streets got moved out a little ways, but our approach has always been to look at the streets that have those deteriorating qualities and get those addressed as soon as we can. The challenge is you want to get them done where you can do this type of correction, this driving surface correction, before you start to lose the base and lose more of the substructure, because then you're looking at completely tearing everything out and building it back up from the soil, the rock, and the driving surface.
Another consideration is the condition of the other utility infrastructure, water main, if we've had water main problems or things like that. So if there's water or sewer issues that we need to take care of, like, for example, on 12th Avenue Northeast, we addressed water main issues, put in a new water main, that the street needed to be resurfaced, but it got put off a couple years so that infrastructure could be in place before we resurfaced it. So
Yep.
that's also taken into consideration.
And we did that quite a bit in the southwest part as well,
Yeah.
in the 20-teens.
Yes.
well, I appreciate that. I noticed on our comprehensive plan that the DOT printed out that practically every single street in Hampton is rated as poor. And I thought, well, okay, how do you decide where to start?
Yeah, the DOT has a rating system, and it is, I'm an engineer, I've been an engineer for almost 30 years, and it is beyond the level of detail that even I can sometimes follow. It is tremendously detailed in what they evaluate in terms of their rating priorities or their rating criteria. When we started, Doug had a map that looks very similar to that with different colors on it, that from his experience, he has local knowledge. I mean, everybody in town they have local knowledge of what the kind of conditions are, what water main or utilities are underneath the roadway that have been repaired. Barry, to your point, what roads have been used as detours and have gotten deteriorated more rapidly because of those detours. So sometimes local knowledge about the roads and then comparing it to what the DOT has found is really the best way. That's kind of the way we approach things like that, is we rely on local knowledge first and then kind of using the DOT's information as a check.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We also had the ISU survey a couple years ago, didn't we?
I think that's what you're referring to. It's a DOT, isn't it?
Yeah, they come around every 2 or 3 years and rate the roads. Yep. We've done Crawford Engineering has done some ratings, some more locally effective ratings using local staff, and put together similar type GIS program that shows the results to the community from that rating, that scoring criteria. Gives you a little more local flavor of what the roads might really be like on a more annual basis rather than every 2 or 3 years.
So do you have a number marked for the streets that we've got marked in there, like the total, if we're looking at doing like the different sections? I can't tell you the name of them right now, but But,
So, I went ahead and just put
alternate
together a
bids
little,
and stuff like that, so.
put together this list here, and all of those streets that we just talked about, and I have included in here the Highway 3 and Highway 65 northwest corner. All of those total up to just over $1 million. And so, whatever the council sees as the priorities that we want to look at for this year's project, we can start looking at dollars and try to hit a target total.
Yeah, 'cause I think, we're of course, in the budget area.
Yep.
And, we're gonna try and finalize some of this stuff so that we can see what we're going to put together and what we can do. And if we take out that 3 and 65, put it on its own, on another deal, that's a little help there. But just so the council understands that we're kind of trying to push this in, and whether we do all of the main bid and then the alternate bids, however we need to have to do it.
Yep.
So
See what we can get done.
what I'll talk about in a few minutes is the HMA project. We're looking to budget 700,000. So are you able to remove that, Mark, so we can look at some
Yep.
numbers? To First Street Southeast, I think, is that the one Barry asked about? Is that right? Is that the 500 block?
First Street
Yeah.
South.
Yep, that's right, 500 block.
Yeah.
Doug, what did you say your guesstimate was for the airport intersection?
I'm guessing that's probably gonna be under 7 for sure, there's not much there. But it'd be good to put it inside as an alternate on our program, just because sometimes the more you do, the cheaper it is, so to speak, as a business owner. It truly is that way with the amount of mix and they price that out.
I guess when we're looking at streets that are traveled on, I question $40,000 on alleys.
I think the biggest one on that one is the one behind Napa over here.
But is that a
because
heavily traveled street?
They get delivery trucks come through that alley, and that's tearing that up pretty bad. So that'd be one
So
in
what about-
favor of that, but,
What about Get and Go alley?
yeah, I don't,
That one, Get and Go Alley has really bad
Mhm.
holes, and with the chiropractor right there, and people are
Yeah.
parking right along that.
They both have issues.
Yeah.
And if you don't pave, something needs to be done, to some degree, to address it,
right.
if you choose not to pave.
So we took out that First Street Southeast,
Okay.
that one down there, that's the far south. It gets us down to about 870,000, so we're getting closer to 700. And then I guess we determine if there's any others that you think.
Did you want to take out the Hardee's intake repair?
Said that one has to be done, right?
Were we gonna do
Yeah, we
that
need to do
separately
that.
with
Yeah, that has to be
DOT?
done.
That was the one at 3 and 65.
Yeah,
That was that
that
one.
one there.
Can you go back to the map, Mark,
Yep.
please? So, I guess we haven't really talked about these two. Like this stretch, 2 blocks here, and then this one here. Last year, we did this 1 block with storm sewer intake as well as new resurfacing, and then we're proposing to go 1 more block with that on Federal. How's everybody feel about these as being a priority, or one of them not so much, or?
South Federal, is that one curb and gutter also, or just mill and overlay?
That one, we would take, I've got curb and gutter included in that, and I think that I don't think I have any storm sewer included in that one. The block north of that is the one that we had to do some corrective work to get the stormwater to go the right direction. So I don't have full-length curb and gutter in that, Barrett, to answer your
Trouble
question.
with that street is it's twice as wide as all the others.
Correct.
So if you wanna put that one down on your priority list as a lower alternate, keep that in, how much is that one, Mark?
146.5.
That'll give you a little bit of, closer to the target of 700,000.
I'd say do that, and then hopefully everything comes in under bid.
And then, so, I'm just spitballing here, but that, and then do you wanna put these two curb and gutter ones at the lower end of the alternates as a lower priority? If things, come in very reasonable, you can do them, but
I think that would put us in the ballpark then.
Yeah. I think it's,
that's separate. Yeah,
Yeah.
that South Federal, we're gonna rehabilitate the gravel, but that's a separate budget item.
So I'll go back to so Federal Street South. If I just take this out from a calculation standpoint,
Yeah.
and the two curb and gutter,
And then you just put them three at the bottom as alternates, and we just
see how it comes out.
see how it comes out.
see where it comes out, yeah.
So with that list being your base bid, or that gives you a $625,000 project as the base bid, and then those other items would be, that's $246,000 alternate.
Would you do, I don't know how you put these together, does you do that as one alternate, or could you split?
I would
that up
probably
just in
do-
case?
I would probably, we would talk about it, but I think I'd probably do Federal Street South as a bid alternate number 1, and the two curb and gutter projects together as bid alternate 2. The city would then have the ability to award just the base bid, the number you see there,
Right.
the base bid plus bid alternate 1, or the base bid plus bid alternate 2, or the base bid plus bid alternate 1 and bid alternate 2.
Do you think we're cutting it too close as a base bid, Mark, and we should maybe pull one more out as an alternate, just to allow us the ability to, because if for some reason the bid comes in high, it would allow us a little more flexibility to at least award the base. You
I
see
think,
what I'm saying?
I think that it's probably wise planning. So I think I would do that, look, and, it could be, it could be one, or it could be a combination of two things, because again, the flexibility you have is to, add to the base bid, rather than taking this base bid, and if prices come in higher, now you're sitting in a spot where, you have to take everything that was included in the base bid. If you have a bid alternate 3, say, after taking one or more out of this list, again, it gives you the flexibility to do that.
Right.
For example, and again, as Ron said, just kind of spitballing. If you were to take the two alleys out, now you're down to 585,000 as a base bid. Your alleys are like or very comparable work that you could say those two items together make up one of the bid alternates, depending on how prices come in.
Right.
So you could say those are bid alternate one together.
I would just feel more comfortable if we had a little more gap between our engineer's estimate and, you know,
Right.
with the base, just in case the bid comes in high.
Yeah.
So do you want to put together a scenario of what you're thinking and then just come back to us or send it to us, what the base would be and what your proposed alternate
Sure.
package would be, and we can look at it at the next workshop?
Yep, happy to, yep.
Is that okay with everybody?
That sounds good.
Okay.
Gives us some flexibility.
Yep. Cool.
Pretty good with that. Well, good. All right. Thank you again
All
for your
right.
time,
Yeah.
always.
Problem, thank you.
Next, we're gonna turn this over to Mr. Dunt for a little bit. And he's gonna go his summary for us again, and you guys feel free to jump in, and
Yeah.
this is our time to talk and discuss and get things going, so.
Yep, interrupt me anytime with questions. I'm gonna go through this narrative document. And Mark, are you unmirroring? Sorry. Just in case later on we need to get on it? Okay, that's okay. So enclosed, you'll find information related to the review draft of the fiscal year 27 city budget. This draft is assuming entity and agency funding remains constant only because staff needs direction from the council on this and all funding proposed in this draft. This proposal aligns with the capital improvement plan. This proposal shows a tentative decrease to the current city property tax levy due to the county revaluation resulting in an overall increase in taxable valuations and the use of surplus funds to reduce the property tax ask. The total levy, as proposed, is projected to be $14.85 per thousand of taxable valuation. The current levy is $15.91 per thousand. Below is a chart of the net changes in the levies. The CGFL is basically the general levy. It's a combined general fund levy, it's now called. That's the acronym, CGFL. Would be $8.30. That's a 3% reduction. Liability and property tax, or liability and property insurance levy, $1.81. That's a 13% decrease. The county dispatching communications, 91-cent levy, which would be down 5%. That doesn't mean that they're going to charge us 5% less. That means that's what the levy here on our end is going to be. Employee benefits levy would be $2.64, which is a 10% reduction. The debt service levy would be $1.19 per thousand, and that's a 14% reduction. The debt service levy, we basically can only levy for the principal and interest and other fees that we are actually going to incur. So that's what we're estimated to have to pay for principal and interest. Then the total levy, as I said, $14.85. The net decrease to the levy would be $1.06, and that is a 6.6% decrease. 6.6% decrease. Hampton's taxable valuations increased by 10.29%. House File 718 then ratchets back potential tax revenue growth for us to 7.09%. As proposed, this levy would result in a 2.9% increase in property taxes, even though the levy decreased by 6.6%. This is due to the increased valuations. The state mandated residential rollback went from 47.43% in fiscal year 26 to 44.53% in fiscal year 27, a 3% drop. This means that a property assessed at $100,000 residential would pay taxes on $44,530 of value for fiscal year '27. The regular general levy is now called the Consolidated General Fund Levy. And for fiscal year '26, the CGFL was $8.55. The CGFL for fiscal year '27 is $8.30 as proposed. And I didn't lower that. That's simply based on the legislative formula that the state implemented. It went to $8.30. This proposal shows general fund expenditures slightly more than general fund revenues, but the increase is intentional to utilize surplus funds for $25,000 of property tax relief. Otherwise, it would be considered a balanced budget. Hampton's commercial and industrial taxable valuations has a net increase of $0 over the last 12 years due to the state-mandated commercial property tax rollbacks, moving multi-residential properties to residential, and the business property tax credit program. These legislative changes have shifted the burden to the residential class, which had a taxable valuation increase by $27 million in the past 12 years. Property and liability premiums continue to rise due to construction-related inflation. However, we have received substantial premium dividends for the last 2 years, so we are limiting our property tax levy to utilize some of those dividend funds. The public safety dispatching fees are not finalized. I hope that we will hear soon what it will be, but it should be fairly close to what we have now. Normally, the employee benefits levy fluctuates year to year depending on rates, claims history, self-funding exposure, and fund balance of the Fund 112 employee benefits. Sometimes if we have accumulated a fund balance, we lower the levy to spend cash on hand. The employee benefits levy as proposed will be $2.64 per thousand. This is a decrease of 30 cents per thousand. Additionally, we will budget $25,000 of 55% local option sales tax fund revenue, as well as $25,000 of general fund surplus to transfer to employee benefits funds for property tax relief. We will also be spending approximately $46,000 of employee benefits surplus. Following chart represents the city tax levy for the past 23 years. This is city levy only and does not include the school, the county, hospital, and community college levies. 4 years ago, the state legislature cut commercial and industrial backfill funding to cities. The backfill revenues are being phased out. The new multi-residential class created has no backfill and continued at a prorated decline in taxable valuation through 2024, when it reached its cap of a rollback equal to residential. It essentially changed all multifamily properties, such as an assisted living facility, apartment buildings, or triplexes, to get the same rollback as a single-family residential property. I do not recommend approving new program funding, and I encourage you to keep an open mind with the possibility of future cuts after the state approves property tax reform. You'll see included in this draft some capital project, street improvements, final construction payments on the water plant filtration expansion, equipment purchases, and facility maintenance. We're fortunate to have surplus funds, which decreases the need for outside debt. The only general obligation debt that we have is the $700,000 for the pharmacy project. And in the spring of 2027, we will incur a small note for the new fire truck that was ordered last year. That has a 2.5 years time period for delivery. June 30th, 2025 showed an unassigned general fund balance in the general fund of $1,030,389. It's recommended that the city maintain a minimum fund balance of between 25 and 40% of annual general fund expenditures to utilize between fall and spring tax receipts so you don't run into a deficit while paying bills. This balance represents 49%. This balance is primarily due to the PD being short an officer for a time being and temporarily, and the increased returns on our bank funds. There are many variables that affect the fund balances, such as grants received, interest revenues, inflation, intergovernmental grants or reimbursements, miscellaneous revenues, liability insurance increases, general government fees such as attorney fees, delayed purchases, capital projects, funding and other entities, increasing costs of operations of general fund departments. These surplus funds will likely be necessary to transition into new property tax reform regulations begin. The Library, Senior Center, and Historic Preservation Commission, as well as the municipal band, are funded through the general fund. I encourage these entities to analyze their respective budgets for areas for improving efficiencies in anticipation of future possible city funding cuts should they become necessary. And then to go over some expenditures in the proposed draft for fiscal year '27. In the police department, expenses related to, well, Citizens Academy, and this is for next year. Normal operations, they're also doing some computer replacements, which are paid for by Barkma grant. I already talked about communication dispatch fee. Fire department, general response operations and facility and equipment maintenance. LoSAP, which is the financial incentive for recruitment and retention of firemen and women. Radio upgrades. Arrival of the new fire truck in the spring of 2027. And this truck will be funded by local option sales tax and a small loan for the remaining amount. The cost of the truck is $345,000. And the airport, local 5% matching towards expenses related to the fuel farm capital project, utilizing, that should say 95%, FAA grant funds, and other general operation related expenses and management of the airport. Library, in the current fiscal year, the city is contributing $95,000 to the library. In addition, the city funds the following library related expenses: health and dental insurance, approximately $60,000, property insurance, $5,000, employee life insurance, disability insurance, legal services, facility maintenance, such as a new roof in 2025. The state is still including scaled back revenues of what used to be the library levy. This proposal assumes the library would receive those revenues, but requires council approval. This year, that amount is $15,000, and I have included that in these numbers. Parks and Cemetery, continued tree replacement in partnership with the tree board. The Dorman Estate donation will allow for $50,000 of tree removal and replacement in the program. And then bridge decking replacement at the East Park Bridge, Bandshell Park obelisk painting, and potential for soccer land expansion. Entity and agency funding. This proposal assumes no changes in the entity agency funding until council determines funding levels, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Current levels show the library at $95,000, senior center $4,000, municipal band $8,500, and historic commission at $1,000. City Hall liability insurance expense continues to be split across funds for property tax relief. Computer accounting costs increase potentially, but not final. That has not been finalized yet. City Hall seems to be a catch-all for various expenses that don't necessarily fit into a department. Code enforcement, more budgeted funds for nuisance property cleanups are included in this department and under 55% local option sales tax fund. For instance, community cleanup and other general nuisance cleanup expenses, and continued work on Rick's pharmacy buildings. Other departments, the Aquatic Center, the Pool and Parks Local Option Sales Tax Revenue Fund will fund the cost of pool heater replacements. Doug is looking into different types of heating options with costs, otherwise typical operations and maintenance at the Aquatic Center. Street Department road use, street right-of-way ash tree removals, snow removal, street and storm sewer maintenance. Street overlay will be funded by 3 different funds: the road use fund, the franchise fee fund, and the local option sales tax 55% at approximately $700,000. Federal Street South gravel rehabilitation is included as well. Employee Benefits Fund, we anticipate a 3% health insurance premium increase at most. It is always difficult to predict how much exposure we will have with deductibles, premiums, and self-funded claims, but being part of the IGHCP consortium helps protect us from large increases annually. Wages, we will be discussing non-union wages in an upcoming closed session. TIF funding. Franklin County Development Association, currently being funded at a rate of $45,000. Main Street, Hampton, $20,000. And the Building Improvement Grant Program, $15,000. I recommend a $5,000 increase to FCDA for marketing of the expansion of industrial park land. We'll also be rebating approximately $30,000 back to Hy-Vee Dollar Fresh of property taxes per the development agreement passed by the City Council a few years ago. General obligation debt, principal and interest on general obligation debt, which includes the pharmacy bond. Fiscal year 27, we will incur a small loan for the new fire truck, as I've stated. And there's no special assessments currently. Franchise fee fund, funding $200,000 towards the HMA street overlay project and $20,000 for property and liability insurance premium contribution and $10,000 for miscellaneous expenses. Local option sales tax, Fund 162, that's the fire, that will fund the fire truck purchase. Fund 163 is the pool and parks local option sales tax fund, and that, as I said, is for pool heater replacement. We have budgeted an estimate of $110,000. Also, Fund 164, that's the 55% of the local option sales taxes, $30,000 for asbestos and nuisance demos, $40,000 for property and liability premium, property tax abatement, and $80,000 for soccer land expansion expenses, whatever that may be. $250,000 towards the $700,000 street improvements, and $25,000 towards employee benefit levy for property tax relief. Capital projects, street improvements, approximately $700,000, and I left that blank for the council to prioritize as they did tonight. I'm also budgeting some funds under Fund 301 Airport for the fuel farm project, and the pharmacy project is also considered a capital project. Under the water department, we'll have water tower interior cleaning, hydrant and valve replacements, the aerator tube replacement, high service pump maintenance, general maintenance, and water treatment capacity improvements projects final pay requests. Sewer, maintenance of the sewer plant and collection system, as well as debt payments for the wastewater plant construction loan. Also, lift station controls moved to the ground surface, and sludge removal costs at the wastewater treatment plant. Solid waste, staffing at the new compost site, as well as a new leaf pickup program, either by a vac machine or by bag pickup to be determined, and the landfill fees of North Iowa. There's a few things we need to talk about. One is the pool heaters. I know Doug has looked into some options, so you want to come up and talk about that, Doug?
Thank you. I'm just going to do a brief history lesson. Some of you weren't on. Jim and Barry, I think, were. When we constructed the pool at the time, Michael Fisher and Water's Edge, the engineer, Michael Fisher was our engineer from Water's Edge. He helped us design things. He helped us look into things. And if you recall, we utilized a company, Pleva Mechanical, for our heating system, and they also did the plumbing up at our aquatic center. At the time when we went with the state-of-the-art heating system, basically, at that time. Matter of fact, it wasn't even, I don't even think they had the patent completed on it just yet. They got the patent shortly after we installed ours. There was only very few that had these. It was very efficient at the time. So with that, there has been some improvements made. We reach back out to Pleva because they know our system, they know that system. They also know a lot of other types of heating systems. But anyway, basically what we have right now is we have an efficient modular heater system where we have a series of 6 heaters. Water passes through those, and then it gets into our pit, that gets circulated into the pool, that's how the water gets heated. Over time, what we've kind of noticed with our current one is that's hard on those heaters, the chlorinated water, this, that, and the other. So what Pleva's actually done is they've actually improved their own system, and what they've done is now they still utilize a 6-heater system, which is still modular, but they use a closed glycol tank, and they heat that glycol, and then they put heat exchangers basically in the pit. That's where it's warmed. That's where the water will be warmed. It's just more efficient that way. I believe it's at a 98% efficient is where we're going to. I think what we had was roughly 92 or 94, so we would see some improvement with that. The cost of that basically was the heating system itself was $92,610. And that would be for everything that goes with it, all the new heat exchangers, the new standard controller, very little electronics that we have to deal with that. The total price for that is $102,610. That's their estimate. It was brought up, I was asked, well, what's geothermal look like? And, Bill brought that up, and that was good. We looked into that. We talked to Pleva about that. One of the reasons that we didn't go with that years ago was it was just the space, the number of units, and it just wasn't quite as efficient as what the system is that we put in. However, we looked into that, again, through Pleva. So they basically have vertical borehole installation, which would take 10 wells. They're 400 feet deep. One of the other things to talk about with drilling those wells, another hindrance that we had up there was the amount of limestone. And then we also have a granite ledge. If you guys remember, we had to move the pool to where it sit more solid. We had to move it, I don't know how many feet to hit that. But anyway, those boreholes are 90,000. It needs a new header and piping manifold system. That was 18,000. Then, of course, there's some grouting and thermal conductivity enhancements that have to be made. That way you're not getting people shocked in the pool and things of that nature. I think that subtotal was 120,000 for the ground loop system itself. The heat pump equipment itself was a commercial water-to-water heat pump, 150-ton capacity is 65,000. You have to install some buffer tanks. Those are 2,000 gallon. It's a 2,000-gallon buffer tank. That's 15,000. Circulation pumps and controls for that are 22,000. And then, of course, there's some heat exchangers that go with those units, and that is 114,000. The installation and integration. There's some electrical service and connection stuff that has to be completed for that. That's 25,000. Building penetrations and piping, which is just basically another fancy term for more plumbing, 18,000. System commissioning and testing is 8,000. Engineering and design, 22,800, and contingency. So we would have to get this on our, our permit through the state as well to change to go to this type. So the subtotal on that was 104,000. So our total initial investment on this would be $338,600 to do that upgrade, or I wouldn't call it an upgrade, but I mean to go to that type system. Annual energy cost kind of raised some eyebrows. That was $10,070. I think Ron and I looked the other day for the 3 months roughly. I think we're at 9,000, I think. Yeah. So that's what we had spent this last year with our current system. Routine maintenance on that system would be $3,000 per year. System monitoring about $1,500. The loop fluid testing is every 5 years for that. So an annual operation and maintenance of that's like $4,800. Then your heat pump compressor, however, 20-year lifespan on those. Circulation pumps come in 2 variations. They're either 12 or 24 year. And then control upgrades, typically at year 15, you'll need new controls. Those are 8,000. And a buffer tanks typically last you about 22 years roughly. So that total cost come up to like almost 30,000. But there was another option, which was a natural gas condensing boiler system. So the boiler equipment alone, I believe it would be, looks like 2 boilers, 2 high-efficiency condensing boilers are 45,000. Boiler room equipment, pumps, tanks, and piping, 18,000. So you have about 63,000 in the boilers. You'd need new gas line installation and upgrade for about 22,000. Venting system and a condensing system, 15,000. Controls and safety system, 12,000. Boiler pad and room modifications, 8,000. Engineering and design is about 9,600 on that. They threw in a little contingency just because it's a remodel for 70 to 9,560 for all that. So your total initial investment to do something of that nature would be 142,560. The annual energy cost on that is predicted to be 10,210. And the annual boiler maintenance alone to get a contract to do that boiler maintenance, because if you have a boiler, you have to have it inspected annually. And that, I believe that's like 4,200 per year. So the annual operation and maintenance, and then you got combustion testing and tuning, 1,200 a year, water treatment chemicals, 1,800 per year, repair and parts allowance, roughly 2,000 possibly. So your total annual operating cost for that system would be roughly $19,410. Having said all that, there's always a salesman out there. There's always someone that wants to maybe look at a lot of different things. I think in the grand scheme of where we're at, my recommendation would be to, go with the Century Aquatic Innovations for that 102,610. That's going to get us, that should easily get it. And it's also my understanding, I'm sorry to say that, Andy had a conversation with Pleva as well. They thought they could get 20 years out of the next system because it's a closed system because of the glycol. It'll be less wear and tear on the heating systems themselves. And then, of course, we're just more efficient. So we tried to look at the most efficient one that we possibly could in the amount of time that we've had. Now, can I keep looking into this? Absolutely. But I was pretty impressed with what Pleva came back with on this other one. And we just recently picked this information up here in the last couple weeks. So it's been trying to get absorb a lot of different things, in a hurry on this. So, but that's kind of where we're sitting.
How many years did we get on the old heater?
So the old heaters, they're not completely shot, obviously, because we only spent 9,000 this last year. However, we are continuing to have more and more and more visits from the plumbers. Murphy's will come in and work on these for us. We have one that's completely dead, and then we have the other five just kind of limping along.
Been 14 years.
But 14 years, to answer your question, yes. Yeah, 14, 15 years.
Mayor. I
Yep,
mean, that
go ahead.
doesn't surprise me with the chlorinated water going through that.
Right.
Yeah. 'Cause I know the Wellness Center replaced their heaters. I mean, it's been 20 years and a lot smaller pool, but that's just the nature of chlorinated water.
Right, and anything aquatic center related, as you guys are well aware, it's expensive, no matter how you look at it. So, and me, when I look at $102,000, that's a lot of money, But then when I look at what the other options are and things of that nature too, I really do think we made a very good choice with Michael Fisher as number one, the engineer. The other thing I want to bring to your attention is when they build those nowadays, they're built to last 30, 40 years. Well, I think we got we got over 50 in the last one, wasn't it, Jim, I think? So,
So,
you know, so we're getting close to middle age, and we're still looking, in my opinion, like a great facility, you know? Gets used a lot. I think we made some really good decisions when we got this one built.
Any questions for Doug? More?
I know it was a lot, guys, I'm sorry.
Anytime I thought of the question, you answered it, so.
Okay,
Thank
All
you.
right,
Thank
thank you.
Want to talk a little bit about the leaf pickup program. Since we last talked about it, you know, we talked about a leaf machine, which is going to run 100,000, 115,000, depending on what you get. In visiting, I've put out a question out on a listserv to my colleagues across the state, and I got some different input regarding their leaf pickup programs, which surprisingly, a few of them indicated that they're getting away from a leaf vac and going towards brown bag recycled pickup, curb pickup, where the staff goes and picks them up, throws them into a trailer or dump truck, and then takes them to the compost site. But it's still a service provided to the citizens. Some getting away from the vacs just because the cost, for one thing, you know, with all the pressure from the state there, everybody's looking at, you know, where can we cut? And also, on a heavy piece of equipment that doesn't get used a lot, sits more than it's running, and maintenance issues and things like that. Also, any type of leaf program generates, you would think everybody'd be happy, but it generates other problems like, well, I just raked my lawn and you guys didn't come out, and now they've blown back into my lawn, and now my neighbors are in my lawn, and trees fall at different times. And so it's hard to keep up with all this. So consequently, you're stretching out your leaf program pickup for longer. But anyway, so those are some of the things to consider. Now, we have the funds to purchase a leaf vac, and we can do that. And I just wanted to talk to you about what other options there are. Iowa Falls evidently just stopped. I don't know if their machine broke, but they're not doing leaf vac anymore. They're just doing curbside pickup, brown bag pickup. But anyway, we can afford to buy a leaf vac. It's coming out of the compost site funds from the revenues we collect from the water bill. So, and that money can't go towards a street project. It can't go towards a fire truck or to the library. It's gotta be something compost site related. So, discussion. What are your thoughts? I think either way, it's gonna be good for our citizens. They're gonna have
Well, if
help with their
you go
leaves.
to bagging, how's that gonna take care of the leaves in the curb? Most people don't take care of the leaves in the curb.
Yeah.
So how is bagging gonna help us any?
I'm just telling you what other communities
Yeah.
have indicated, yeah.
I think what I'm hearing is people, you know, want us to pick up their leaves, you know, one way or the other. They're gonna rake their yard. The street sweepers still are gonna be running around here, you know, picking up leaves out of the gutters. But this is pretty much for the residents, what they're gonna do with their leaves. And we could conceively probably get rid of the lifting the burn ban
Well,
in
one
December
other
and
problem
November
with
too.
sweeping is you almost have to have a program like snow removal, because you gotta zigzag around cars and the leaves don't get picked up.
Yeah, no matter what we do, there's still gonna be leaves in streets and lawns, because I know my 2 trees in my backyard, they don't seem to fall till February. So, I don't know what the deal is, but it's, whatever we do is gonna be an improvement.
Do you have pictures or anything, information on this back?
I think so. Might have one handy.
Is it something you pull, or is it self-propelled?
there's a motor on it that runs the vac, but it's a trailer. So the dump truck would pull it, and then there's different styles, but they'll vacuum it up, it'll go through the vac, and essentially it'll grind somewhat and then shoot it into the dump truck.
So would people essentially rake their leaves into the gutter then, and then the?
No, I think right up to the curb, but not into the street. You wanna just pass that around quick? That's not a very good picture, but it is a picture.
As far as if we went to going around and picking up bags, there'd have to be specific bags, correct?
Right, brown
Um,
paper.
So where do they get those? Do we provide them as the
Yep.
city, or?
Typically, the local stores would sell them. Dollar
Okay.
General, hardware
Well, that's what I
store.
was thinking.
Hampton
Yes.
Hardware
Couldn't
has
we sell them?
Well,
Come buy your bags at the city hall?
well, I don't think, I think you'd want the local businesses to sell them and make a little money on them.
Right.
Thank you.
I was just trying to help the budget.
Well, we don't really want to compete with our local businesses.
Yeah.
We could sell antiques out of the front. City Hall. Also, I don't think I mentioned in the narrative, but it's in this proposed budget item spreadsheet, a new mosquito sprayer. We have 2 mosquito sprayers. They're both pretty old. One of them is beyond repair and you can't get parts for it. So although we still have a sprayer, we are proposing to buy another sprayer so that we can have 2 people spraying and cut down on the length of time it takes to spray. We haven't had to spray a lot lately. The last few summers have been dry, so.
But that's not the compost
No,
site.
that's separate, that's right. So are you leaning towards a leaf vac or bag program, or?
I think there's too much trouble with bagging. Buying them and filling them and.
Yeah, that's true. One thing just to keep in mind that is if we purchase a leaf vac, just understand that you're still gonna get calls. People are gonna have expectations and we cannot meet them expectations just because of wind and when leaves fall and when people rake and when they don't rake and when their neighbor rakes or don't rake. So you will probably get calls about this whole process. And the staff asks that you support the staff in their, what it is they're trying to accomplish and the efforts that they're putting in. And that's just the way it is. So,
My concern with the leaf vac is people will blow or rake their leaves into the street, thinking that they're gonna be picked up.
yeah, we're gonna have to have an education process. We're gonna have to publicize. I understand,
I
yeah.
know.
Yep.
And sticks, we don't want sticks in it, and that's another problem with some cities indicated that people raking in sticks and branches in, and then they get sucked up in their vac and break things, so. But,
Back in Colorado, we did the bag system, and there was a set week that everybody was given. This is when we're gonna be in your neighborhood, picking up bags. You had to have them out the night before the first day of that week. And then the city got to them when they got to them, but they were bagged. It didn't matter if we had Chinookwids come along and blow them into the next county because they were in bags. Yes, the bags would blow over, but there was a far less, it seemed like, actual leaf blowing happening. And then once that week was over, your time to complain was over. So, you could complain, but it wouldn't do you any good. This is when your week is, and it was, well, I think they based it off of trash pickup, which doesn't apply here, but that's how they determined what week it was gonna be, and it was like middle of October through end of November.
okay.
How well does that machine work on wet leaves?
Yeah, I don't know, Barry. Did the salesman say anything about working on wet leaves?
No, he didn't. Close down,
think,
If we could get something like we have this, because we have the system now that we could put out there, text message system that would be good for sweeping, that's not really collection.
the thing about bags, does that take more manpower? And what do you do when you get a week or 2 weeks of rain? That bag's gonna disintegrate, and then how do you pick that up?
I don't know. With this machine, you got at least two people. You got one riding it, and remote controlling the arm, and you got another guy in the dump truck, possibly a third one if I don't know, but at least two, maybe three. And with the bags, yeah, you're probably gonna have 3 or 4. You're gonna have a driver, and you want 2 or 3 guys to get moving and get them thrown in.
Mayor?
Yep.
I think if we're not really sure which way to go, I like what you brought up, Gene, about the bagging. And I'm thinking if we take the mentality of garbage collection along those lines as far as, like designate certain times and get people educated. But if we're not really 100% sure, I think I'd rather try the bags first because it's gonna be a lot less money as far as not having to purchase the equipment for it.
Can we demo one of those?
Probably.
Oh, yeah,
The
I
thing
think,
is-
yeah, for sure.
You have to think about injury. We're gonna have
Right.
more injuries with bags? Somebody lifting them or whatever, overextending or,
Yeah, it's always a risk. I mean, they're bending, grabbing. I don't know how, I've never used one of these recycling bags. Do they get heavy with leaves in them, or?
Not so long as the leaves aren't wet. The bags are multi-layers
Yeah.
thick, and they're pretty tall. They stand a good 3-4 feet tall, so they hold quite a bit. But, Barry, you asked about what happens when they get wet. Do they disintegrate? I've never seen them disintegrate. We would get sometimes a foot of snow on top of them before they get picked up. And I've never seen them disintegrate, so they're pretty sturdy.
Just,
I have one in my garage. I can bring it to the next meeting if you want to see what it's like.
Something staff brought up when we started discussing this a little bit collectively was, the idea and the concept of maybe the last 2 weeks of October, we do it in the south, because what we've noticed over the years is the south part of town drops its leaves typically a little bit before the north does, for whatever reason. I don't know if it's due to the number of different species in the south versus the north. I don't know. I'm sure you can find some in the south that drop them late as well. But it just appears from staff's recommendations that the south typically drops their leaves a little bit earlier than the north for some reason. But there's also more trees in the north than there are the south, so that might be part of it as well. But that was some of their input. The thought was maybe the last 2 weeks of October, we're gonna do the south half of town, and then the next 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of November, we do the north. And then once that's done, like Gene said, once we're done, we're done. So, I don't know, just some food for thought.
So the purpose of this is because we're not satisfied with the number of leaves and the amount of leaves that we're collecting currently to get off of the streets. Because I'm thinking, we've got the new landfill operation going on that just opened up, which has really eased the access to take your leaves and your waste yourself. Where the old landfill, it was a hit or miss whether you could dump them off because of the water and the mud and the mess down there, and that's the purpose for moving it, to escape that. So is this, with the new landfill, is there even it's necessary to do this? Without giving us a chance to, I'm just wondering how much more that this new landfill will be utilized because of its ease of use. It's one-way traffic, it's level ground, it's all solid, you're not driving through mud holes and slop and mess, and maybe people were avoiding the old one because of that, because I know personally, I utilized it quite a bit. There was a lot of times I got down there and I wished I wouldn't ever down there because of the mess. I didn't know if I was gonna get out sometimes. But
I think the new compost site is a much, a better facility with easier access and use for the citizens and staff. And I think that a leaf vac or any type of leaf pickup program is just more of a convenience for the citizens. I think that's what it is, unless anybody disagrees
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah, I think that's what I've
Well,
heard.
we had the burning issue too, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they want, hey, why don't we have a leaf pickup? Why can't I pull my leaves to the
Yeah.
curb and you guys pick them up? Well, possible, we can look at it. I don't think it's and the blowing and that kind of stuff, it doesn't matter what we do, whether we suck them up or we put them in a bag, or somebody's not gonna be happy. But we're doing more than we used to, and that's what you asked for, So I think it's more of a, like Ben Ron said, a convenience
And for some people.
for our residents.
I mean, it's a huge thing. It can be a huge thing. For me, I have almost a third of an acre lot and lots of trees, and so lots of leaves. And I have a little SUV, so it doesn't hold that many bags. So I'm going out every week out to the compost site to try and get all the leaves taken care of. So it would be a huge convenience for me.
And somebody mentioned burning, that we possibly may no longer have to allow burning of leaves in the fall. That's another reason that came up as to why it would be good for those people that are against burning. Some people like burning, don't mind if their neighbor burns, others dislike it.
I don't know why they just don't mow them. I mow my leaves,
I
not a
mow-
problem.
I mow mine too, and mulch them.
So, you wanna just give it some more thought? We don't have to decide tonight.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff, so many questions around
Okay.
it. How are we gonna do it? Man time, manpower, blah, blah, blah. I mean, there's all that stuff has to be worked out, but are we gonna buy this or are we gonna do that?
Well, the nice thing is there's funds there for that
Yeah,
machine.
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's there.
And so, I know Bill has some things he'd like to bring up, and I guess I'll ask, anybody have any more questions for me right now at this point? The budget's not finalized, this is kind of a work in progress, but if you want changes, I need to know about it. I need to know. And also entity funding is hanging out there, so that's one thing that we can talk about tonight, or we can put off to the next meeting. But Bill would like to talk about a couple of his thoughts, so, is that all right, Mayor?
Yeah.
Well, I had a little proposal to come, but before that, I do have some questions on what you had written for your draft, and I'm sure everybody else does too, after going through this. And I appreciate all the information that you sent out to us. I can't imagine the workload that you had to put this together for us in such a short time and for us to get it back. But I just had some general questions,
Yeah.
Ron, and you've been more than gracious with the time that you've given me in when I stop in at your office, and these are just general questions. One of them that came across when I was reading this was the employee benefits levy. You said that we're going to transfer $25,000 of the loss fund and $25,000 for the general fund. And they'll also be spending approximately $46,000 of the employee benefit surplus. So that comes to about $96,000 for anticipated expenditures out of employee. Will there be any surplus left in that fund after you?
Yes.
And why are you expecting such a large increase in expenses in that employee benefit fund? Is it?
I don't know that.
And when I ask these questions, Aaron, I'm not looking for just kind of a general thing. These are questions that,
So, Bill, I'm proposing that our expenses for that fund will be $446,000. The current budget, we budgeted $462,000. So, I've basically looked at 6 months and then what the 6 months of what the actual expenses have been. And then, trying to project what, our health insurance is gonna go up roughly 3%. We don't know how many people will meet their deductible. It's kind of a guessing game, but trying to have some property tax relief, but also having other funds supplementing that so that we don't get caught with not enough funds.
Okay. Another quick question I had was the new fire truck, and you said there's gonna be a small loan that we might have to take off when that comes in. When you say small loan, like $25,000?
No, maybe 100. The last one was, when we purchased one, we ended up paying 120,000, but it just depends on the local option sales tax revenues and how much we have on hand when the truck comes in.
Okay. My question would be, why are we taking out a small loan for that? Why can't we take that out of the general fund or the 55% fund to avoid that cost of interest on that? Is it, or maybe that's not even enough to worry about?
Well, we could do that. It's just that, with, like, in this upcoming budget, we're projecting to spend surplus funds from the local option sales tax and the road use and franchise fees to go for a large street project. I hate to overcommit funds from the other funds, but theoretically, we could.
Okay. And I'll just throw this out there, Ron, and for what it's worth. I was looking at the revenues and the expenses over the years for the information that you gave us.
Mhm.
And for instance, 2 years ago, our expenses were only $7,344,000. And since then, our expenses today are practically a 46% increase over fiscal year '24. And even 16% over fiscal year '25. Are things going up that fast? Or is this just a cyclical thing that happens, and it just happens to be we're in a bad cycle at this point?
Well, when you look at total expenditures like you are, that's everything.
Yes.
What's
I
really
agree.
impacts that number is capital projects. If you get a $2.5 million capital project lumped in that year, and plus a fire truck or other things, that really inflates the total expenditures. If we were to hit a year where we had no capital projects, that would drastically reduce our expenditures. See what I'm saying? So it
Yes, I do.
depends on the
Yes, I
level
do.
of the capital projects.
Okay. And then we're going to be transferring quite a bit of fund to keep the total levy down, which
Mhm.
is I appreciate that 100%. But we're going to, from what I can understand through the numbers that you gave us, it looks like we're actually going to be taking about a quarter of our reserve funds, not just our general fund, but all the funds combined. We're taking about a quarter out of that fund. Now, I'm assuming that it took quite a while to get to a point where we had so much surplus funds that we do today. By taking a quarter of it like that, is it a really big hit to us
Well, we typically, and the majority of that is for a street project. And
Because
so
this is the first time I noticed that you did this in 4 years,
Yeah,
taking those funds out.
that's right. And it's because we'll do street projects typically year after year for 3 or 4 years, and just do 200,000 to 300,000. But then when we get reserves built up, then we'll draw off them reserves to do a bigger street project, just because there's such a need with street
Well,
improvements.
and I don't want to question that, because I appreciate the fact that you're using those funds instead of raising the taxes. I mean, this
Yes.
is what you need to do.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's just,
No, it's a good
it
question.
just kind of stuck out in my mind
Yes.
that this year was such a big hit compared to
Yes.
for the information you gave us. That answers most of my questions on your draft, and I'm sure other people might have some other questions, so I'll kind of back off for a minute if somebody else wants to ask some questions.
Yeah, I'm really kind of confused here. If you go to street department road use, there's 700,000 there.
Where are you looking at, Barry?
Your first
The letter?
descriptions, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, other departments, street and road use, 700,000. Then you go down to franchise fee. You're gonna put 200,000 toward HMA, so that should be 900,000, right?
No. So if you look at that, basically that, when I say 700,000 for a road use, that's for the HMA project total, but that's funded with 3 different funds. And if you go to this spreadsheet, the proposed budget items, and go to the second page, in this box, on that second page is the HMA project, 700,000, and then this shows how it's divided up. 200,000 from 005 franchise fee, local option sales tax, 250,000, and then road use, 250,000. So that may have been a little unclear of how I typed that in the
Well, I
narrative.
wanna, now, down here, local option sales tax, it says 250,000 towards the 700,000.
Yeah, and that's right there. Local option sales tax, 164, 250,000. So it's 250, 250 from road use, and 200 from franchise fees.
So you're taking that, how much are you taking off the 700,000?
How much am I taking off?
Right, you're gonna take 200,000 off that
For what?
for the HMA?
No.
It's
The
using,
HMA project is this 700,000.
Okay.
And this tells you what funds that 700 is coming
where
from.
it's coming from.
So that's only 450,000.
No, that's 700,000 in that box.
So 3 on the
All
bottom.
3 of them?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Well, the Hardee's storm sewer isn't 250,000.
No, that shouldn't be in there.
Oops.
That's an error. So it's just the HMA street overlay project is 700,000. That's the line that's on. And then, so those 2 lines underneath the HMA, that's an error typo.
All right.
Yep.
I had a question on the $80,000 for soccer land expenses, expansion expenses. Can you,
Yeah, I don't
Explain
know
that to me.
exactly what that's gonna be. I'm trying to just come up with a estimate of if we acquired some land, for acquisition, and then grading and seeding. I don't really know how close I'm gonna be. I just need to budget something.
so are you talking about the land that was donated to the city for like the use of the rec complex? Are you talking
No.
about the land that
Cemetery.
you were working with the school?
Yeah, not the
What-
rec complex land. Basically, it hasn't been decided what land. I also had another lead on another piece of land that quite possibly could have been it, but has since fallen through. So we're gonna be talking about that in an upcoming closed session too, on which piece and what,
Okay,
working towards
Okay.
negotiations. But I had to kind of put as a placeholder, something, in
okay,
case we do acquire a piece.
thank you.
Mr. Holmstrom?
I would like to follow up with what Jerry was talking about, this $80,000. A small thing that I'll just throw this out there, in my notes. I put down to increase that to $100,000, but here's the rub. I don't think that should be designated as soccer land acquisition in the plan. I'm looking at what makes a soccer expansion any more of a priority for our youth than a baseball field expansion or a softball field expansion or other activity-related expansion. I do agree that the money should be there. In fact, I would put more money in there. But I don't think we should be thinking about spending that money until the city comes up with a community park master plan, because it's too much hit and miss. And just as a small example, we had complaints about trees being put into a field that somebody thought was a good playground for the kids. We had a thing with the Frisbee golf course, and they had to take down a backstop for the ball field that people use all the time, or they had to move things around. We don't, we're just kind of hit and miss in where things are going. And I think if we had a master plan, we would know this is where I want the soccer field. This is where I want the baseball improvements. This is where I want the tennis courts taken care of for the pickleball courts. I really think a city our size should have something like that. And I don't think it's something that the city has to build, this master plan. We have smart enough people in here, demonstrated all the time with ideas. Get these thinkers together and bring the plan to us, and then we can decide whether we want to accept that plan or not. But I really like the fact that you want to put that money there. In fact, I would add more to it. I just don't think it should be designated just for the soccer field, because there's too many other activities, youth activities, that are viable, that can attract tourists and visitors to our community if we plan this right. But we have no plan. We have absolutely no plan. And what we've done, we've kind of leapt into in different areas. You know, I like the idea of the tennis courts at the Wellness Center. I like the soccer field on East Park. But that's just me. Somebody else might have a lot better plan for and use of our resources. So I would suggest leaving the money there, if not add to it, but just not designate it specifically as a soccer field expansion, which we could talk about later. But then we have the money in place, but we could talk about later what to do with it. That's my thoughts on that.
Yeah. I think my thoughts on that as well is we're faced with needing to expand the soccer fields right now. So that's why it's kind of, I think that's why it's getting tagged as soccer field inspection, bigger. But, you know, I'm all for your plan. I mean, if we make a park plan, I'm all for it. Right now, we got a soccer issue, and we don't even know where we're going with it yet, because we haven't had the meeting yet, so.
Just in the last few months, we've had the soccer people here, we had the Frisbee golf course people here, we had the baseball people here last week. We all have different things. We need to get those people together and have them draft up a master plan for us to spend this money, because when it's gone, it's gone.
We did have that, and it was $8.5 million at the Maytag plant. We can't afford that.
I think when we have our goal-setting sessions, I think that is a very great idea. Okay. One of my goals would be this year, let's come up with a park plan. You know, what are we going to do with these parks, and how are we going to?
Yeah, I mean, that's
I think it's a great place to
That's the
discuss
reason we
that.
have a goal setting
Mhm.
meeting, and we're working, putting that together right now. That's when we put this stuff in there, and, okay, we need this, we need this, we need this, and then we prioritize it and end up with the win, or a list that all 6 people are okay with it.
And I think having a park plan is a good idea, but I think what we're doing here is more taking care of the short-term needs until we can get a
Right.
park plan going. Because not only, like the West Park repairs was more for the baseball too, right? So we're trying to help them out where we can. And then the soccer has been an issue that has been ongoing also, and I think we're trying to take care of that too in the short term. But I agree, I think we do need a long-term plan, but in the meantime, we need to take care of these short-term needs.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's necessarily calling it short-term, but needs that we can take care of within the next year or so.
Yeah.
So the 80,000 would not include any maintenance, it would just be acquisition, grading, seating,
Yeah, that was the intent.
maybe some
Yeah.
parking. or
Something to address the problem with soccer, with their bursting at the seams. And then Barry referred to, we did that with the rec complex. We had a very organized effort to bring all, stakeholders to the table with committee structures and giving input, multiple meetings, and coming into design and priorities, all the different, all the football, the Little League, the football program, the soccer, they all help prioritize their needs and I need to show that too. I can dust it off and get a copy to everybody again, and what led ultimately to getting an engineer's cost estimate on a rec complex, that everybody prioritized their needs and it was all put into this complex, and then it had a price tag of like $8 million, and then COVID hit, and so, anyway.
I understand what you're saying, and I understand the $8.5 million sticker shock. But I also understand how many years ago that this was. And since that time, I'm not seeing city funds being designated specifically to build a plan where we could attack a major project like that. Well, at this point, after so many years, we're still, if a major plan comes up, we're attacking it from scratch financially. Where we didn't have anything built up, we don't know how this is gonna go, but here's a start fund.
Yeah.
And we're gonna add to the start fund and ask the community to build on this start fund. It went nowhere. It just died in the water once you saw the sticker shock.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just caused us to, and since we put that on hold, it didn't help the soccer program at all. They continue to grow and have
And
these
I don't want you to
needs.
think I'm against the soccer field.
No.
I mean, I live by East Park. I love that. Those little kids are growing in leaps and bounds, and it's tremendous,
Yeah.
this program. So
I think-
I don't want that to be thought.
Yeah.
That's not my purpose.
I think we're all in agreement that it's good to plan for anything, and including the parks, and so, yeah, I don't see that we have a big issue here, but like I said, it's more of a placeholder, because I don't know what the short-term future is gonna bring, but if an opportunity comes up, that, we'd have something budgeted, so.
Thank you, Ron.
Would you feel more comfortable just calling it a generic term? Is that what I'm hearing? So that we wouldn't necessarily be locked into soccer, but if down the road, a few months, after the budget was passed, that we felt that money might go to something more or different sports related? I mean, that's what I'm hearing, is you don't want to call it soccer, you want to keep it more generic.
Well, I think that's pretty much it, Jim. I'm just hesitant with that title, because we're locked in at that point. Because if we don't spend that on that project, we're gonna hear about it. If I was sitting on that end and I was a soccer player, that money was promised to the soccer field, and,
Okay. No.
yeah.
So does that impact how we budget if we call it something different?
No, I just think that the soccer program is where the need is, and so that's why I labeled it as I did. And by relabeling it, doesn't change their needs, but it's still there. And it's also a safety issue.
And frankly, Jim, I'm happy that it's there, the money's there,
Okay,
I'm not opposed to that. You kind of understand my drift.
I
here,
understand.
think.
And ultimately, the council will have to approve of the spending of that money when the time comes.
Right.
So,
Yeah, so it's in the parks,
yeah,
and it's just labeled as the soccer,
Yeah.
but, yeah.
yep.
All right. Any other questions, any other thoughts?
When will this have to be certified?
Well, officially in April, but we'll have the next thing on the calendar is the max levy public hearing notice that has to go to the paper.
No, once it's certified, when will the state come out and tell us what we can do? Will we have to,
This will be done.
we'll have to redo our budget, won't we?
Yeah, our budget will likely be done, and then we'll find out what they did, property tax reform, and then, I don't know, it depends on what they do. If anything will be retroactive, we'll just have to make adjustments if necessary, and, yeah, you just can't predict.
Okay. So I got the entity requests in front of me that we need to nail down.
Yeah, that was right after the green page in your packet, yeah. So on that, the first column is the entity. The second column under blue, if you have a color copy, is council consensus. This is where you would, we would pencil in what your consensus is. The next column is what the amount they requested. For instance, the library requested $100,000. The next column to the right is the current fiscal year in green, if you have a colored copy. Shows what they're currently being funded at.
So I guess we can just go right down the line. So first one's the library. They've gotten, currently it's 95,000. This budget, they're asking for 100,000. They got a bump for this year.
Turn the heat down a little.
And, in my opinion, they've got several gifts that have come to the libraries that could help them with their budgets as well. But what's everybody thought on the library?
98.
Huh?
98, that's my thought.
At 98. Anybody else thoughts on the library?
I think that they've done an incredible job in increasing usership. With that comes more costs, so
Jamie,
I,
can't hear you very well.
I'm sorry. There are, they've done an amazing job of increasing usership at the library, and with that comes extra costs. And I know that they've been talking about using that $10,000 they're getting from the Carnegie Corporation or Foundation for some building stuff that needs attention. You get a 150-year-old building. I've lived in a couple. They are expensive. So I'm fine with the 100,000, but 98 seems reasonable too.
Anybody else?
I think, they have the foundation. How much more can the foundation kick in?
Right. That's a good point.
And like, if they inherited land, are they just drawing the rent off that, or are they just gonna sell, or?
I don't know.
No, I think the land was being sold and then they were getting proceeds, but I don't know if they've gotten those proceeds yet.
Right.
I don't know.
I think the foundation has been doing quite a bit for them and will continue to do so. And I echo what Gene says. I think there's a lot of good things going on at the library, and has been a struggle, and I think they're doing the best they can. My personal opinion, I'm fine with the $100,000.
Bill?
I think the library is doing a wonderful job too, under Susie's direction. I'm really happy with her report that she gave. But I'd have to, I kind of feel the same way that Barry does. I think the best kept secret in town is how much money that foundation has. I don't know how many people I've asked, I've never gotten an answer. And, it's not none of my business, but I'm thinking, if it's that big of a secret, the possibilities are that they have money that they are holding on to that could be contributed to the library. When I looked at all of the things in Ron's briefing of the funding that we're providing that library and the costs associated with this, I thought the $100,000 was a lot of money. But when you're talking salaries and you're talking insurance and you're talking building repairs, and the city is really contributing a large sum of money to that library. And when I look at the history of the library, didn't they come to the city for help to get it started? But we shouldn't be completely funding this thing. We're providing quite a bit of funding for them. And, they were here in 2021 for 88,000, and then they were here in 24 for 93, and then they were here in 26 for 95, and now they're at 27. Where does it stop?
And the bottom line, I know Ron has talked about this, is we fund a lot more than just this little bit of money for them.
Yes.
We do a lot of other stuff for them, that's, is kind of wrapped into this, but it doesn't show on the paper.
And I'm certainly not opposed to contributing the 95,000, and from what I understand, it sounds like Ron's kind of anticipating that levy's gonna go through for another $15,000, so that's on top of this again,
Right.
so.
And I keep going back to, this is budget time, so we gotta balance our budget. So do they. They can't just go, there's somebody that can't just sit there and with a bucket of money and say, how much do you need? You gotta balance it. And sometimes you gotta give, sometimes you gotta take. It's just my thought.
I always look at this when they come and propose, this is what we would like this year. If you don't ask,
Exactly.
so you're always gonna ask for a little bit more, but I think it's more of a bargaining place. Can we meet in the middle somewhere? And that's why I threw the 98 out there.
Mhm. So what do we got over here? 98, 100. Bill, where you landed?
I would fund the current 95.
95. How about on this side of the door? The
I'm happy with 95. I think the foundation could give us some help.
Kristen?
I'd be in agreement with Jerry, 98.
Okay. Mr. Davies?
Already told you,
Okay.
I'd go with the 100.
100, okay. So we got 2, 2, and 2. We gotta land somewhere. I'm not the tiebreaker, but I would go with the 95 this year and then see where we go. But that's my opinion. Okay, we'll come back to that one. Historic Commission, they're $1,000. Jim said,
Oh,
we just
basically,
don't-
it's an allocation
Yeah.
that the state does expect something because we're a certified local government, and we'll use that as needed to attend that one continuing education. Now, this next year, it is in Ankeny, so I don't anticipate that it will be used as much as it was when it's further, because I don't think any of us are like, if I go, I'm not gonna stay overnight. But at least we have that in case, and then I don't think we've ever spent that much
Right.
in the past anyway. And so what happens, that money, it just
Just stays in the general fund,
so,
yeah.
I mean, I think it just, if anything, it just shows the state that, yes, the city is going to participate at that level, and I think that's basically like a minimum that they would like to see, even though there's no requirement.
Okay. So $1,000 for the Historic Commission. Municipal band. They got 8,500 this year, and last year. Before that, it was 7,750. They're asking for 900 or 9,000. Just my thought on that is that we stay with the 8,500. But I would also like to reach out to Mr. Salk, I believe is his name, and talk to him about possibly some fundraising. I don't know that they do any fundraising. If it could be as simple as passing the hat at the park when there's a concert. I mean, people are gonna throw out some change. I mean, it's gonna be, and it might be more than you think. It's just a thought. But I would, any thoughts on that?
I agree with the 8,500. I've never known a municipal band that wasn't all volunteer, so this is a new concept to me.
Everybody kind of
I'm
comfortable
happy
with
with
the
85.
8,500?
I'm fine
Yep.
with 85.
Okay. Let's go 8,500 on the municipal band. Senior center. My 2 cents for that. They've been at $4,000 for 6 years. Never asked for a cent or another dime. They do a lot of,
Fundraisers.
they do a lot of fundraising. But we're also talking about housing in Hampton, and specifically senior housing. I'd be okay, give them another 1,000, push it up to 5,000. Any thoughts?
I would agree with that.
Mhm.
Yeah, they've been very frugal with their funds, like you said, since 2021, they haven't approached the council.
Yeah, they just do
And
their thing.
seniors hate to knock on doors and ask for funds, so
Yeah.
they must need it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys good? 5,000, all right. Of course, the FDCA, FCDA, and maintenance, Main Street. We knew that the FCDA had asked for an additional $5,000, which is small beans to me, for some of the stuff that they got going, and they've got some land acquisition stuff going on too. Any thoughts on that? The 50,000 on that
I
one?
think they're very important.
Mhm.
Plus, wasn't, even though NIAC is not, they're not gonna be charged rent, but they were looking at purchasing additional property, right?
Yes.
Because
Yeah, they have.
because we're full out
That's
at
right,
the
industrial park.
industrial park, so.
Full,
So I think it's important that we
Hmm.
maintain that, and, I mean, I'm fine with that 50,000.
And one of the things they're gonna be doing, they have an option to purchase this land, which they're gonna exercise, which I think is between $600,000 and $700,000. They're gonna use funds on hand and then, work with the Bankers Association to, do a small loan. The remainder, but they need to market it, and so that's one of the things they're working on right now, putting together a marketing campaign to start marketing, the property, to a prospective industry, so that's what the extra funds will go towards.
I'm agreement to that too. We need some more industrial here.
Mhm. Yep, and I know they're working hard at it, so anything we can do to help and partner with them, that'd be great. All right,
So
go ahead.
I know they're purchasing more property, but have they ever looked at any of the property that the city has, for instance,
Yeah, I have no idea.
cement plant property? I don't know how many acres are there. The West Park property has 16 acres. We've got some big pieces of land. Have we ever looked
Yeah,
into that type of development through the FCDA?
so from the perspective of Franklin County Development, they're looking at land expansion that is suitable for industrial properties. And so you don't really want to get in town or in the middle of town. You want to be outside of town. But yet, what they're purchasing is within city limits, but it's on the edge of town, and anything, if there's any noise or smells or, and you also want to be close to the airport, close to the railroad, and so those things come into play. That's kind of what drives their thoughts process. And that piece is 36 acres, I believe. We don't have anything.
The one that they're looking at to purchase
Yes,
now?
Yes, yep.
Okay, so we got those, the 20 and the 15 are staying the same, increasing to 50,000 for FCDA. Back to the library, we got,
We got Main Street.
it's on there, that's the
I'm sorry.
15,000.
Okay.
Right under names,
I missed that.
Main Street and the building improvement.
Okay,
There's no increase on those.
okay.
So what do we want to give the library? We got
Do
two,
you
two,
wanna
and
meet-
two. If we go to the middle, we could go 98,
wanna
not
meet 'em
98,000. I mean, are we comfortable with that? Or are we gonna,
Well, to break a tie, I would move up to 98, since this is Susie's first year, and we'll give her a good chance of getting some funds from the foundation.
yeah,
I don't know when she approaches them, but, and then next year we can look hard at this. If the
Right.
foundation doesn't kick in, I think we need to cut it off at a certain level.
I agree with that. Everybody good with 98?
If we have to.
Consensus says
Yeah,
98.
that's fine, that's
Okay.
fine.
Okay. I think that takes care of that one. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate that. What else do we gotta hammer out tonight?
Bill, you had some photos. Did you want to run through them?
I did, and I hate to because it's getting long, but I think this is the place to do it if we're asking for funds to run the budget for this fiscal year 27. Am I correct, Ron?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, so I asked Ron earlier if this was the place, and he said yes, so I have some photos to show you, Ron, and I hope they're all numbered properly.
I have them in order.
Okay. That was a big challenge for my age to get this computer thing to work, but I got some photos for you for the screen. And as you can see, Hampton has an abundance of parks and residences for visitors to enjoy. Unfortunately, the children living on the south side of town have been overlooked by not providing safe passage and access to our many parks and trails. As you can see, all of Hampton's parks, except for the Bandshell Park, are located north of Highway 3. I am requesting that the members of the council consider funding this bicycle trail spur to provide the children living south of Highway 3 a safe location to cross Highway 3, granting these children access to all of our parks and facilities. You can go to the next one, Ron. I am proposing a spur to begin at the corner of 4th Avenue Southeast and Federal, and that spur would travel north to 3rd Avenue Northeast. Then turn left at 1st Street Northwest, then north again to Progress Park, continuing north, joining our existing bicycle trail just north of Seabees. By providing the spur, you'll be enabling the safe trail of these children to have access to all of our city's parks and trail system. The city has had plans to incorporate our current trail system to include the south side of Hampton. So far, through no fault of their own, this offer has not been achieved. But this spur can be used as a standalone or in conjunction with any further trail system that may be established on the south part of town. We will be able to provide access to all of Hampton's parks and activities by developing the spur, which I am proposing. There's children in the southeast quadrant of Hampton. They can reach this trail following the 4th Avenue Southeast to the spur, which would begin at Federal Street. And the next one, Ron. This is a closer look at the end of Federal Street, from North Federal to the Progress Park. Just in case it was a little confusing, you would go to the North Federal and 3rd Avenue Northeast. You would turn west to 4th Street Northwest, and then again north on 1st Street Northwest. This final segment has no parking allowed on either side of the street to the Progress Park area. And then, of course, it would go a little farther north to the CB trail system, just north of CB's. And the next picture, Ron. This is a view north of the post office along the proposed spur. Considering the traffic situation and parking spaces involved along Federal Street from the post office north to 2nd Avenue Northeast, the safest course of action would be to actually build a trail between the current sidewalks on the east side of Federal and the curb, but obviously this would be cost prohibitive at this time for us. And then the next one, Ron. In order to provide safe passage for individuals using this spur in the area of the Federal Street from the post office to 2nd Avenue Northeast, while still allowing for no parking spaces to be lost to this proposal, I am suggesting signing this portion of Federal Street in a similar manner as you see, allowing 7 feet for the bicyclist to travel from the curb and another 3 feet as a barrier to allow for safe opening of car doors. Minimal cost to city's paint and labor, and hopefully we can get some grants, possibly like we did on the trail that went from the high school to Harriman Park. This particular portion of Federal Street has been designed wider, which we've discussed before, than most other streets in Hampton. The post office to the library section is approximately 44 feet in width. And then from the next block, between Napa, for instance, and the courthouse curb, it's approximately 57 feet in width. And the block in front of the theater measures approximately 50 feet in width. Now, these wide streets, compare them to the majority of our residential streets, where are only approximately 24 feet in width. The next one, Ron. We could mark out a short jog to the current sidewalk there at the corner by the library and have the bicyclists and pedestrians cross Highway 3 at the normal crosswalk. This location, in my estimation, is the safest place for children to cross Highway 3. There's other options. One might be on either end of Highway 3. But for anyone who travels Highway 3, it doesn't take long to realize that vehicles coming into Hampton from the west or leaving Hampton to the east or vice versa are traveling at a much higher speed than the posted 35 miles an hour. It becomes a speed trap right in there. Another option might be the four-way stop at the crossroads, Highway 65 and 3-corner. But with all the traffic in that area, if a bicyclist does safely navigate the traffic lights, you're still in a heavy traffic zone. And then with the 4 red stoplight location on the southeast corner of the courthouse, crossing bikes would again be in the high traffic area and vehicle parking area of the downtown, which we don't really want them right downtown, the bicyclist traffic. Let's see, with this location by the library, vehicles are either just departing our 4 red light stop sign on Highway 3 and First, or knowingly approaching this 4 red stoplight from the east. In either case, the vehicle is just beginning to proceed or is just beginning to slow down, depending on what you're coming or going. So in each direction, these vehicles are already traveling at a slower speed. Another use of this crossing is for pedestrians. Pedestrians traveling to the library, the post office, or many celebrations held at the band park. I can personally attest from my days at the post office, looking out the corner window of my office, of seeing several elderly residents crossing Highway 3 on that crosswalk, either confused or walking too slow to beat the traffic or getting stuck in the middle of the street on their way to the library. And I had to go and dropping things in the middle of that highway, whatever they were carrying to the library or the post office. And I literally had to run out of my office several times to assist those pedestrians, help them across the street, and then I would take them home after they were done with doing whatever they were doing, just because I was afraid to turn them loose. I have found that, speaking to the DOT, that they are not in favor of this idea. I spoke to them personally before I came on the council, because I talked to them about when I was at the post office. They have cited many things. Some of them, the traffic in the Hampton does not necessitate this action. They also cite that no pedestrian actions or fatalities have occurred to warrant this type of crosswalk. And there's other things that I won't go into, and this could be true. What they tell me could be very, very true. But I've heard them say this same thing, the same reasons why not, to several other cities, requesting the same crosswalk lighting systems for their citizens. But the council of the city that I'm referring to specifically were more concerned about their children's safety than the recommendation of the DOT, and I believe that we should also take that same position. The next one, Ron. This is the type of crossing signal that I'm requesting the city's approval at the library location. We'll need 2 of these signs on each side of the crossing, and that's for the entire setup. I have seen this stop sign in use, or this crossing sign in use, and I would highly, highly recommend it because of its visibility and ease of use. You can see it's got the push button on this one. But we would need 2 of those. The next one, Ron. Now this is looking south on Highway 65. You can see this is coming up to the school crossing 3rd Avenue and 4th Avenue. And you can see the school has installed a yellow flashing light 1 block before the actual crossing, which is a tremendous help. Now, I have not seen that on. It must be coming on just during school operation times, is what I'm thinking. But that really brings visibility to the driver to slow down with that light. You can go to the next one, Ron. And that's the same shot going off to 12th Street to the crossing for the middle school and the high school. And again, that just this yellow light really makes a difference out there, because I don't know if you've noticed, and we have a lot of signs in town, Doug, and I appreciate that for kids. We have so many, I'm wondering if some of them are being, taken for granted, and people are driving by and not paying attention to it because they're seeing so many of these signs where these type of flashing lights bring it to their attention. It's not just a sign you're passing, it's something you really have to focus on by this flashing. You can go to the next one, Ron. What you see here is our current crosswalk on Highway 65 for our trail system. We have 2 signs, no lights, and the expense for those 2 signs is minimal. I think you can get that triangular sign, or that sign, for about $35 at different places. I've looked on the internet. They're cheap. And I'm thinking, is this the best we can do for the kids in our town? And the bicyclists, and the dog walkers, and the people with their strollers and their kids. I think we can do better. And specifically for Highway 65 crossings, you can go to the next one, Ron. I would recommend just this type of a sign. This type of a sign lights up on, it doesn't have a push button or anything, and it's solar, but, and it's LED. I think that's enough light to make people aware of those crossings on Highway 65. We have a current trail crossing on Highway 65, and hopefully someday we'll have a crossing on Highway 65 by Southside School. Hopefully, someday. But we need the lights there. And I'm thinking possibly the county or the schools would help us with these signs, these 2 signs. The sign by the library, which I'm proposing, which is a lot more expensive, I think is probably going to sit on the city's budget unless we can get some type of a grant. I think our kids are more important than the cost here, and I think we need to look into this. And this particular sign, and in fact, all of the signs, you can just buy parts. You can buy the solar part, you can buy the lights, you can buy the stand, you can buy everything. And I don't know what we have, but Doug, I don't know if we need everything on these, but you can piece it out. So the prices probably are going to be a little cheaper than that. But this is the best that I could do. And here's what I'm requesting. And I hope you guys would consider this for this fiscal year 27 budget. I really want to get this done this year. We've put this off too long, and by the grace of God, we haven't had a kid hit or hurt or a family member. I think we need to do all that we can do for the protection of our kids. And I'm requesting $25,000 to be approved to our street department funding. I think this should come out of street department funding, don't you, Ron? If it's approved. And the money could be transferred from our 55% lost fund. And I think we can do this without affecting the fiscal year 27 budget, proposed budget, because it would still maintain the general fund unassigned balance of over 40%, which Ron would like, and I agree Ron needs to have there in case something comes up as far as paying bills or whatever comes up in the next 6 months. But we're not going to go below that 40% with this. In fact, we're going to be above the 40. I think it's like 44%, I figured, whatever. But Ron's given us so many numbers, it's kind of a blur anymore, but I'm guessing about 44%. Anyway, I'm asking for you to really consider this, getting this in our 27 budget. I think we can do it. And I know we're going to go up to an obstacle with the DOT, and I think we need to, I'm not going to say what I think we should tell the DOT, but I think we need to stand up for the kids in town. So that's my proposal, and thanks for the time, Ron. I appreciate that. Thanks for putting that in order.
Kristen?
Bill, I just want to say thank you for putting that together. Somebody with little kids who lives on the southwest side of town with no parks and no real access for my kids to get to parks. I think that's a really good idea. And I think that we should definitely consider it and tell the DOT what we really think.
Yeah.
If we have an existing crosswalk, do we need their approval for those lighted signs?
I don't know.
Typically, anything that we're gonna do over there, we need to at least communicate with them. And, I don't know if they're gonna say no, you can't, but we definitely probably know.
Yeah, I have no doubt.
They're gonna need a right-of-way permit to do the work, to put the signs.
I can tell you right now, we're going to butt heads with the DOT over this.
I'd like to see us try and get some grants for that first.
Yeah, I think that's possible, Barry. I don't know, but they put, what kind of a grant was involved when they went from the high school to Harriman Park, Jim? You went out, you walked with the,
Painting the
yeah.
lines, yeah, I think extension, there was a grant, it was like through extension.
See, and I'm wondering if we could get that same grant to paint the Federal Street.
I
to
mean, we
Park-
could
Park.
certainly check into that.
I mean, there's a lot of pieces that need to go,
Yeah.
be put in place for this, for the whole cross, the bike path and stuff like that. Changing the parking, stuff like that. I think that's, that's gonna take us some time. It's like turning the Titanic, you can't, the library, if you looked at the signs as one piece of it and say, okay, yeah, let's see if we can get the signs. Maybe this year, maybe not, depending on what these guys want to do. But the bigger piece of the whole trail, I think that should go into our
Goal setting.
our goal setting, and that's where we kind of put that big piece. Then we can put it in the budget and know what we're looking at, stuff like that. I think we're kind of getting the cart before the horse, and I don't disagree that the kids need a safe place to cross. I believe it, but my first thought is you want them crossing there by downtown and through downtown, and there's cars and there's some stuff moving. Can we go down one more block down First Street? That goes right to the high or to the north side of the school, and the sign,
I think my biggest position on the library location was, for the one main thing, was the width of the streets through Federal down there. We have room to push those parking spots out from the curb without eliminating those parking spots because of the width of the street, I believe. And we have, I mean, literally, Steve, I've seen people doing the dance in the middle of the street in the middle of the winter, elderly people trying to get to the library, and I think, what the heck? And I'd be out that door and trying to, and this was a few, and it's a scary thought to see.
oh yeah,
that.
yeah, I've seen
So
it.
it's not just for the bicycle people, it's for the elderly. And then all of the people that cross that street when they go to the activities at the band shelter. I mean, it's amazing when you see the car shows and everything that goes on and the band concerts and all these old people. They're not all going down to the 4 red stops. I said it would be so nice to have a push button. At least at that spot. You had told me one time you grew up with push buttons in Hampton for a crossing. Was it you that said that? Somebody said there was cross streets. Jim said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're probably not old enough.
He's
I'm right
almost
behind him.
old enough.
Yeah. I've been around a while.
Steve, talking about First Street, though, the First Street south side, though, is very, very narrow. There's no place for a bike trail there. It's horribly narrow. So First Street really, and then you run into the church and that parking situation there. So First Street wouldn't work for like a bike path. I do get the Federal Street working better because it is a wider street. And then they would cross over, between Napa and the courthouse, which is wider there too. And they won't have their bikes downtown where they're not, because then they'll be on the sidewalks downtown. And that's when we run into people walking out of stores and
Right.
getting hit by bikes.
I like the idea for the signage. Like you said, that corner, I walk from the Windsor to the post office sometimes, and that's just during the day, but like you said, you have a big event going on and a lot of traffic. It'd be nice at least to have the signs.
I think that's a good place to start, is with the signage. And
Yeah, I'll
build
look
on
up,
that.
I'll talk with Extension, or I'll look up the information when I participated in that walk study, and, because I can maybe contact the people that Extension worked with on that, and just see what grants might be available, and maybe what help they could provide.
Yeah, because I think Iowa
At
State
least for
paid, I
starters.
think Iowa State for Paul, paid for all of that painting, didn't he? Going
think
down
so.
north, yeah, so we didn't come, none of that came out of our pocket there, so.
Right.
Right.
But if we can get to a,
And I think what Christian suggested about all the children on the south side, I was gonna try to hazard a guess and say 45% of the kids in Hampton live on that side of Highway 3. And that might be an undercutting it, but I didn't want to hazard a guess. But I used to have to walk with the carriers, each carrier 2 times a year, and then in between, kids were everywhere on the south side and nowhere to go unless they zipped across that thing, haphazard. The biggest obstacle, I think, is not the trail, is not the cost, is not the traffic lights. I think the biggest obstacle we're going to have with this program is the education to get the kids to cross where it's safe. That's the biggest obstacle. The rest of this, I think, is doable. It's getting the kids to use it where they should use it, where it's safe to go.
But this seems like it's really focused on getting the kids to Progress Park, which is essentially, I mean, I know the aquatic center is the biggest portion of that, which is open 3 months roughly out of the year. Why do we not focus on building some parks on the south side?
I was just gonna mention, I don't know how many years ago that I think talked about it a little bit here, but, I think one option was we were gonna talk to the law enforcement center. They have a lot of land there. It's like, where could we put some playground equipment there?
We're burning down houses all over the place.
Yeah,
Let's
you know,
throw a
because
park in there.
Kiwanis has put in different playgrounds too. But we had talked about it, and I don't remember if you remember that, Ron or Doug. You know, we had talked about putting a playground in on the law enforcement, and I didn't know if the county at that time did not necessarily want to pursue that, or we didn't really pursue that. But that was an option, is like, why don't we have a playground somewhere down in the southwest part,
Yeah.
like
And
we
then
do on the other parts?
With
it's
a
something the
basketball
kids can
court.
go to.
Yeah, like a basketball,
12
because there's a
months out
lot
of
of
the year,
land,
not
like
just
basketball
3.
court, playground, maybe another area that you could do some pickup soccer, whatever.
There's really not a lot of big places to put a park on the southwest side of town, just the law enforcement center.
Right, and
Yeah.
have all that land there, less to mow.
Hampton is, I've got to say, Hampton is really blessed with the number of parks that we have in this community. We're very fortunate to have the amount that we have,
oh, yeah,
so.
yep.
Remember that program we went to for League of Cities? Were either of you guys at that, of how the police departments were reaching out to the community and connecting with the communities? And their law enforcement center had a basketball court built, and they had basketballs.
Oh, yeah.
And they would actually go out and play basketball with the kids, and,
Yep.
It wasn't Spencer, was it?
no, I can't remember.
I don't think so.
But yeah, I remember that.
I love,
I
that was a
actually had
great
that.
presentation, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, for what it's worth, I mean, I think this needs to go to our goal setting, the park piece that you talked about earlier, as well as this this needs to be, because it's gonna be a long drawn out thing, and it depended if we want to spend money for signs at this point, that's gonna be up to you guys, you know, if you want to put some money in there.
I think we can find the money. I think there's
Maybe some grant money, and
Got
maybe
Sailor Foundation, we got
you looked up
Barkama.
Barkama, because
Yeah.
Barkama will consider, I believe,
Mhm.
other than just their regular period that they normally
I have a
have been
question.
requesting, but
Mhm.
go ahead.
Bill, you mentioned $25,000. Was that for the 2 signs, or at the library crossing, or is
Well-
that for bike lane?
To be perfectly honest with you, Ron, I wasn't sure about the grants for the striping of the roads. And the biggest portion of that 25 would be the cost for those 2 main lights at the library,
Yeah.
the crossing lights. But I also, when I drafted it up, I was thinking about the crosswalk out by Casey's where the existing trail crosses 65. But like I said, I think that we might be able to get assistance with that from the county. But if we can't,
Right.
I wanted to have the money set aside so we could get that lit up. If the county said no and the school said no, we still had some funds on top of what we had for our other lighting to pay for this.
Were the library crossing lights hardwired?
No, they were
Solar, even with the push button?
solar with the push
solar.
button. Yeah, that's why they're so expensive.
Okay.
Solar with the push button. But
5,500.
when the first time I saw those, I thought it was a major incident going on. I mean, the lights were that bright. And I was probably two blocks away, and I saw these lights, and I thought, oh my gosh, something terrible happened, and it was a crosswalk. I mean, so you see these lights. Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, I'd like the money put in the, somewhere for this year's budget, kind of like what you're exploring for your soccer $80,000 thing. You may not spend it. We're going to talk about it later. I would like to designate these funds. We may not spend it, but it's there. If we can purchase the lights and get this thing moving, we've got a stepping stone to build on. But if we just talk about it and throw it into planning and it goes to next year, then it makes me think of this same thing I talked about with the complex for the youth athletics. But that's why I would like it. I would like it designated in this year's budget.
So when do you need,
Well, I mean, is there a consensus to add that 25,000 as a placeholder
what's your
for
thoughts?
these crossing signs that are lit? Or what? I mean, if there's a consensus for it, we'll get it in and
Do we
move
have
on.
time to get approval from the DOT for something like
Yeah,
that?
it would be pending that or, but it would be
Yeah.
in the budget, and
Yeah.
then if everything works out and any,
Yeah, the two for the
This
library.
one, just a placeholder.
yeah.
Do you have
I'd like to
something?
see more homework done on it. I'm sure Doug can reach out to sign companies
Yeah.
and
It's gonna be a
come up
process,
with
that's for sure.
different bids or proposals and,
I mean, if you did just the two, you did them two bright at the library, that's 15,000,
Yeah,
right?
if you bought every piece in the puzzle. And
Yeah.
I just grabbed a couple of websites, so,
Yeah.
prices are gonna vary a little bit, but
Doug probably has a good,
I'm thinking
source.
that's a pretty stiff figure, I think, as far as the different ones I looked at was about $7,500
Yeah.
for a light,
yeah,
for everything on that light.
yeah. So, what's everybody want? What do you feel? I'll go around the room. I'll go around the room. Jim, what are you up for?
Okay, so you're asking whether we want to put an additional 25,000. I guess what are we discussing? I mean, specifically
Well,
now?
Whether we get grants or not, we'll have to cut the check for them. So we'll have to have it
Right.
budgeted.
Yeah.
So the question is whether to budget for the crossing signs, the lighted crossing signs at the library and the trail, which he's estimating 25,000 would cover it. We would see if the school would help contribute, or conservation at the trail ones.
Yeah, sure. I'm fine with that.
Mary?
I don't think we've done enough research yet.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the 11th hour, but, do we want to put some money back and then research? Now's the time to put the money in the budget if we need it.
I'm saying no.
Okay. Kristen?
I'd say yes, but with more research and
Yeah.
homework done as well, but.
Okay. Ms.
we can
Creepy?
put it in there and we can always take it back,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I'm gonna put you on a one, I guess.
I mean, yes, and I agree with Jerry. It may not come to fruition, but I'm hoping that
Mhm.
it does. And if it doesn't, we'll just put it back in the fund,
Right,
because we're taking it out of a 55% loss fund.
yeah.
So no harm, no foul if it doesn't come through.
Jane?
I I guess I'm okay with setting it in there as a placeholder, but I feel like it definitely needs to go
Yeah, I
into
think
the
we
goal
got some more
setting
discussion to make,
discussion.
yeah. So the full 25,000, 15,000? I hate to muddy the waters, I mean, it's kind of late, but. Know what you want to set aside?
Well, I think I mean, it sounds like you did some basic research on the 25. I mean, because, I mean, we obviously need to do
Right.
more specific research.
Yep,
But again, as a placeholder that we can modify it, I think for tonight, I guess
Yep.
I'm okay with putting that in, but we do need to do our homework on
Okay,
the
are we
details.
good with that? Mr. Dunt?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So earmark 25,000, and we're gonna have some more discussions, but at least we'll have a spot started, and we can move forward with that.
Thank you,
Thank you
everybody.
for the work you put on that. What else?
Does anybody have any questions? At the next meeting, I'll kind of go over.
When is the next meeting?
The next regular workshop, which
Which
would be
the 9th,
yeah, the
next
9th.
Monday.
Just, and I won't have a lot. I mean, we
Yeah.
just went through the majority of it, so now it's just kind of finalizing it. But, any more questions?
Okay, not hearing none.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Next thing on the agenda. Let's go. Oh, no, thank you guys all for your discussion. That's much needed.